Hey guys, it's OSK. Today I have something very special for you, and that's the start of a brand new coaching series. This is not something that I've seen anyone do seriously yet, and it's something that I'd like to provide for you guys, given my experience both with casting competitive events and practicing in scrims with competitive players myself. Now, throughout the last few months especially, I've learned a lot about the nuances of Spellbreak. I'd like to provide you guys, new players and veterans alike, the chance to receive critical feedback about your gameplay and what you can do to improve on or do differently to help you get that sweet, sweet victory. Now, anyone is free to submit games for me to coach. All you have to do is send me a direct message on Twitter, Twitch, or Discord containing a full length VOD of a game that is at least 10 minutes long and has 15 or more players in the lobby. It can be a good result or a bad result, but as long as it's 10 minutes long, 15 or more players, I will be okay. And I will be accepting submissions from any point in closed beta 2, meaning that yes, even patch 2.1 and 2.0, despite the massive changes, will still be okay for now. If you're interested in this, please submit a VOD, and you can find me reviewing it live on Twitch, where you are free to ask questions after I'm done with the coaching session, and you can also leave live feedback. Other than that, all the usual YouTube stuff. If you like the video, be sure to subscribe and like the video. I put a lot of thought into my feedback for your gameplay, so I hope it translates over well. And always be sure to hit the socials down below. The Twitch, Twitter, and Discord all are appreciated. And without further ado, here is Talkohsss with our first coaching video. So, first things first, you want to look and see where your drop is. It even starts as early as this. So, you can see all of these mana vaults right here. Very popular places to drop. Even one up here, although I would imagine this is the only guy going for it up here. Talkohsss is an aggressive player, so he likes going towards the center of the map and also getting that first point into his skill. And I can tell you now he's running Toxicologist, and getting Vanishing Mist is one of the most important things on that particular class. So you're pretty much at a severe disadvantage if you don't have Vanishing Mist as a Toxicologist. You're basically just running around with these toxic puddles. So you want to get a center of the map and get into the first zone as quickly as possible, and that's exactly what he's going to do. I'm going to skip ahead to where he drops. So you see him already picking up the Shadow Step. He has the Wind. Everything's looking good for him. Looks like a pretty solid looting phase. You can see right here. I guess he must have heard him on the drop right here. He notices that there's a guy right here. He plays this about as well as you can. He has the high ground, slaps him from above. Guy doesn't know what to do. He's a Stone Shaper. Easy win spam. Nothing doing there. Now, if I was him, if you wanted to nitpick a little bit, whenever he is right here.
What's up, dude?
Right here. You notice that there's a Stone Shaper. You have the mana for it, or you kind of do. You could just go ahead and try to hop on these stairs to minimize the damage taken from this, and that'll be more important if there's more than just that guy dropping there. That's just a minor point. It's an easy solo kill. Other than that, getting as many talents as you can while you have the freedom to do so is very good. He also runs a pretty good build in this patch with Harmony, Fervor, and Thirsty. It's a build that I pioneered, by the way. Anyway, tooting my own horn aside. Gives you freedom of slows, stuns, extra cast speed. Now you see he finds another person. If that guy is anywhere next to him when he gets that first kill, he would be in really rough shape because he would be at 50 HP, which is why I go ahead and say get as much high ground as you can right off the get-go. I didn't even notice that on the first time through. It's a nice DF NATO. You don't see those very often. Looks like he's in the middle of a third-party situation. He has no belt, so pushing this is a little dangerous. So here's what I would do. Now, he plays this very well, all things considered. In a competitive lobby, he won't get this lucky. He sees that there's two guys right here, and he chooses the W key push. Now, that is something that you can do. However, a good player, as soon as they notice that, are going to turn around, notice you're right there, and then they might even start to focus you. And with him having no belt, again, no belt, 0 shields right here, he's in a very bad situation. He's on the low ground. He doesn't have the health advantage. He has 1 shield pot, but he can't use it. So what I would do is I wouldn't even start damaging yet. I would get up on the sledge, As long as he's traveling in that same direction, as long as he's going that way, I would get on the sledge. Thanks for the follow, Fury. Thanks for the follow, Fury. So what I would do is get on this ledge right here. You know that he's focusing this way. He already has an opponent in sight. You don't even have to engage him. Especially in a third-party situation, you can just wait. You can just wait. Wait till they have low health. Some people will get mad at you with Reddit. In the Reddit thread, somebody's going to get mad at you for doing the third-party situation. But at the end of the day, it's a battle royale. It's a very valid scenario, very valid strategy. So you could do that.
I know I'm win spamming, but what else am I gonna do? You know?
Could do exactly what I told you, Tacos. So he gets pretty lucky that this guy misses his fire shot, but he finishes that kill. He plays up the third party, which is good. I skipped that just a little bit. There. He played that 1v1 about as well as he could have. So I'm going to break down this entire 1v1 for you. Right here. Notice he gets hit by the fire. In this patch, fire doesn't have ignite, so there's multiple ways you can play around this. And you can see right here, he has a Shadow Step already off cooldown. That's his first option. And he'll use the Toxic Cloud later on, which is a very good strategy indeed. What you want to do against a fire user, is you want to have as much verticality as you possibly can. Fire, relatively speaking, is a slow projectile. So any kind of movement, vertical and horizontal, is gonna be the best thing you can do. And he does a pretty good job of that. Confuses him just like that. Now, personally, I wouldn't even bother using the tornado, just because, for one thing, it's kind of hard to do frame by frame on this thing, but I'll do it the best I can. He puts it pretty much directly below him. And that's all well and good, except if you're in the air, it's gonna pull you towards your own tornado. Especially if you put toxic in it, like you'll see right here. It gets damaged by his own toxic tornado. Now, funny thing about tornadoes, at least in this patch, is that the hitbox for these things is way down here, which is pretty much exactly where Tacos is. This guy up here is actually playing it very well, even though he's getting sucked in. As long as he doesn't put a fire, as long as he doesn't throw fire into the toxic tornado, he's perfectly fine. And he also has the positional advantage. So that's a misstep in that 1v1. Something to consider. Runs into the firewall, not much you can do there. The reaction time is ridiculous. He notices that this guy floats. Wind spamming, probably the best thing you can do at that range. This next move is very important. Right here. That is the most important thing you can do against a fire as a Toxicologist. He knows that he's in range. He's close enough to himself whenever he puts down that toxic cloud. So you saw him put it down, close range enough. Thank you for the follow again, Majin. What's up? I'll just let that play out. So anyway, back to what I was saying. He puts it close enough to him that he can dash, which is fantastic. This guy probably doesn't even know where he went, and he's making perfect position to sort of get behind him, which is exactly what you want to do as a Toxicologist. Even without Outbreak, it's a free Toxic Slap. And even with a common Toxic, what's up, Phinox? You still get a considerable amount of damage, and this guy's considerably low, so that amount of damage is going to be just fine. And better yet, you notice here, he's close enough to where he walks into it. So if he's in the middle of putting a fire gauntlet this way, this thing explodes, DFs him, he dies anyway. That is the best move of the entire 1v1. So he's going to be doing just fine. He has his loot. Everything is fantastic. Everything is great with the world.
I really am. It's all I found. It's all I found. It really is.
You can see he's considerably distressed at picking up a wind gauntlet. He wants that DF. He's embarrassed.
But after cheating, you learn how people play and the rotations. It's true.
This might be the best part of the whole coaching session. So anyway, he's just looting up. You want to get the talents going up. He's a very talented man, as you can see. Oh, he sees a player right here. I actually haven't seen this through all the way. I'm kind of doing it as I go.
Yeah, no, cheaters are like,
So I'll just let it play.
you don't cheat anymore, so you are not bad.
I think he's calling wind spam cheating, which is pretty funny. All right, let's see what he sees. Oh, He sees a guy looting right here. Let's see how he does. Now, personally, what he does right here, just running forward, I mean, I guess it's okay. This little barrier is just fine. If he loops around this way, then he's fine if it's a stone shaper. This thing will actually block the stone wave, or the shock wave, which is good. And just as a rule of thumb, and I'll say this on every coaching point, but what I like to do, just in general, always assume that my opponent is a stone shaper or has a stone gauntlet. It helps with your positioning, and it's also great because you get to avoid getting slapped in the face for 40 damage. So anything you can do to put yourself... Now, cover is a funny word in Spellbreak, but if you can just get behind this little post, it's going to block any stone spam. Also, he could even, if he's quick enough, shadow step, get on top of this castle. But by that point, he's going to know it's a stone shaper anyway. That's just a little side point.
What's up, dude?
So he plays that very well. You notice that that was his opponent's Toxic Cloud. So he does that very well. You can assume by that guy putting down the Toxic Cloud immediately that he might be a Toxicologist. So he does exactly what you want to do. Just DFs it. You can see he's revealed at this moment. He has 20 armor already down from the DF, which is very good. At this point, let's see how he plays it out. Nice little flick shot. So the whole second half, he played that just about as well as he could have.
What's up, dude?
Well, the one thing that really sealed this is, first of all, him hitting the DF, getting the shield advantage. And also at this point, his opponent is running away. You can see him right here. That is the absolute #1 thing. If you're new to Spellbreak, do not run away. Okay? These veterans are going to chase you down. Even if you're a good player, these veterans are going to chase you down. They already have the W key advantage towards you. If you turn around, look and see where they are, you're already putting yourself in an acceleration disadvantage because you're not going to move as fast as they can sprint forward. So what this guy does is the absolute wrong thing you want to do. The only thing Tacos does wrong right here is misses fire shots. There's not much else to say about it. He tries to shield. That's an obvious mistake. He tries to shield while Tacos is chasing him. And while starting a shield and getting down to lower ground is a good idea, if you know that you're away from a guy, if you are that close to getting chased, not the best move in the world. He's just going to flick and finish it off. That's all there is to that.
Hag Daddy. I dig the name. I like it.
I'm in agreement. I like that name too.
Streams to play his game and toggles just on tacos.
And he's already up to 5 Exiles, which is fantastic.
Only on him do I toggle. Kek W. Kek W.
S. Zlade, I see you in there. Let me see if he finds any action. I'm just going to go off the Exile number in the top right. Yeah, he's in the middle of a fight right here.
Put hours to get better. Exactly.
So obviously teabag for confidence. It's exactly what you want to do to get in your opponent's head. Oh, actually hits that. Kind of a lucky shot. Anyway. Starts in the best possible position right there. The TP isn't very far. Other than that, his opponent just tries to run away. Now he does try to hit a flick shot, but at that point, you want to... Let me pause it. So you see right here, first of all, that's a lucky shot. Good job to him. He also, for the most part, dodges that firewall. Let me get to the point that really matters right here. All right, right there. That toxic slap is what seals this entire fight, because what this guy is going to do, he's first of all at a double health disadvantage. Sorry for the resolution, but he has no shield. The fight's over. Unless this man can find another opponent and then have Tacos get targeted by that other opponent, then this guy, he's already dead. That's a big thing to consider. It's something that I do in my games as well, and especially in this patch in 2.2. I'm running Pyromancer currently, and I'm also running Flight. So what that allows me to do, and it also works with Teleport if you're running Conduit, you just want to put as much distance between you and him as possible. Especially if he's using Toxic, you can assume that he's going to be a Toxicologist for the most part. You want to put as much distance. And the goal here is not really to straight up run away, although you could do that. It's more to find a distraction and then bait Tacos into the distraction. And by that I mean find a third party and hopefully you can get away with distracting him, and they fight each other and then you're away, you're healing. It happens with me all of the time. And yeah, he could have used Shadow Step earlier. But at this point, the teleport is too short. Talkohsss is too good of a player. He has dashes as a Toxicologist. It's easy.
Godlike pineapple.
And at that point, if you're at 20 health and you haven't damaged the guy yet, don't turn around and try to hit him.
That's awesome. That's a good name.
It's going to end up exactly like that.
At the end of the day, casual isn't making money on... Yeah.
Other than that, we're going to fast forward. I can't see the map right here, but you can see the edge of the zone. There we go. That's a good frame to pause on. All right. So I'll explain zone mechanics right here for those of you that don't know. He's perfectly within the zone. This is fine. Typically, you want to get as central of this zone as possible. There's just more of a probability that the next zone is going to be where you currently are, especially if you stays in Fort Halcyon. If that's your play, now at Spellbreak, it's less important. It's less important because you have so much movement, and you can move so fast that you don't really have to play the zone like you would in games like Apex or PUBG or even Fortnite for that matter, even though it has like that whole rocket riding mechanic, whatever you want to call it. Central zone mostly is the better position. Spellbreak, not as important, but that's just a side note. Now, one thing that isn't a side note is you have all of this area that players could be in, and what are they going to do? They're going to be out of the zone in the next rotation. They're going to be coming this way. And you can see Tacos is very well aware of that. So where does he position himself? Right here on Avant-Garde Summit. And by force of habit, I myself did this in my first days. And I bet a lot of new players will do this too. This is something you don't have to do, but it still happens. Is that players will go for the wedges of the zone. More just so they can keep an eye on the edge. They can stay away from as many fights. Let me clean that up for you guys. They can stay away from fights. And there's less distance traveled whenever the zone actually closes. You have this much distance versus this much distance to cover if you get caught out. So Taco's being well aware of this, is positioning himself in the Avant-Garde Summit. He knows players are going to be flocking this way. And that's an easy way for him to pick up Exiles. More arrows. All right, there you go. Whole screen is red. Hope you like it. Hashtag arrows for follow.
Where are all TIG gamers?
See, he's expecting people to come this way, and he's disappointed that they're not. IllyX2, thank you for the follow. Yep, so his strategy worked out perfectly. This man coming in right here. Good job, Tacos. You're an experienced player. Oh, how did that get there? Also, he's pretty well looted. Another thing you want to do. And speaking of loot, I'm just going to put this as a side note. This is more of a strategy that you can use, and it was more discovered kind of in the modern day, I'll say, as opposed to 2.1. This is what I used to do. I used to run one small, one big, one small, one big as far as my health potion and shield output. Now, what I do is I will have, especially if I'm running Thirsty, it's very important if you're running Thirsty. If you're running anything else, it really doesn't matter, whatever you're comfortable with. But if you're running Thirsty, it is more optimal for you to run as many big armor shards as possible. And what this does, first of all, armor shard right there, you could have picked it up. But what this does is, first of all, it denies your enemies any chance of getting armor shards. So these big armor shards, you can stockpile them in your inventory. And as you all know, the first thing to go when you get damaged is your shield goes away. So what is this doing in your inventory? I'll tell you what it's doing. It's taking up unnecessary space. So what you can do, you're not going to get very much value out of the small potions, especially if you're running thirsty. Once you get 3 points, it takes literally half the time to drink. So by the time you're done with the small pot regularly, you've drunk 50 HP. So what I like to do is I like to get this out of here, put big pots in 2, 3, and 4. As many big armor shards as you can find, put it in your inventory. Oh, that's a circle. Oh, it's fading. That's good. I like fading circles. So he notices this fight right here, and they're already facing each other. Oh, actually, let me rewind a little bit. Might have missed something. Okay, so he sees that guy right there. This man is focusing this way. So what does this tell us? And you see the toxic cloud going on. It means that he's in the middle of a fight himself. So Tacos is coming in a third-party situation. Again, very viable strategy. Why is that there? So he's going to go ahead and DF that cloud. Just any residual damage you can get on anybody trying to dash out of it. He notices that this man is running away from that toxic cloud. So you can already assume that he's low on health. Easy exile for anybody experienced enough to get it. So very nice. Shadow steps up, misses the toxic slap, but that's okay. He's already got him down from corrosion by 50 shield at least. Oh, that's such a good play. Good. I'm gonna let the fight pan out and then show you what I did. So at that point, Tito just gave up because he knows there's nothing you can do. Which is sad, but that's exactly what you want to do. This man starts from a very high position, which is okay. Now that right here is kind of a misplay. So what he does right here, he opens himself up for any snipes that this man might have. All this dude has to do is look over the edge right here and just aim his frost spell if he wants to. Tacos, at this point right here, he is open to that other third party, especially if he's a Stone Shaper. I doubt he is, but he still could be. There are people that run it. So getting this far down, he probably just let the momentum take him down. But what I would do, he knows that lightning already came down. He's going to Shadow Step to try to get the outbreak. But what he needs to do is instead of drifting this way, he needs to start drifting this way. And what that does, you achieve the same effect of dodging that frost sorcery. I don't know what I just did with the anchor there. You do the same effect of dodging that frost sorcery. And you still have kind of a high ground where you're not completely on the ground, which is the absolute worst place you want to be. So that's one thing he can do. And he does a good job of getting his way back up there, using fire to kind of cancel out the frost. The S key Shadow Step, saw one of you say it was a misplay. It can work. I think he's being overly cautious. But you can make it work. I think what his initial reaction was to get up here, just in case his opponent wants to get on this ledge and try to get back up here. He has the right frame of mind. You still don't want to be on the ground, but at this point, he's already done so much damage to the guy that really he can finish this with one outbreak slap. And he gets kind of one right there. That fire was a misstep. What you want to do right there, and I know I'm nitpicking a lot, but this is more min-maxing your gameplay. Instead of using your Toxic Cloud as a charge to get back up here, don't fire that fire shot and just levitate up there. It's better to do that. You're already ahead. You can do this. Conserve your mana, let it charge up, and then go in for the last outbreak. Something that'll shorten your fight. Again, another misplay. It's just all about keeping the high ground. At that point, Tito knows that he's beat him. He's broken his spirit. See? I haven't seen this part. This is my assumption that everyone you're going to face is a Stone Shaper, and that's an assumption you need to bring into every fight. This man actually is a Stone Shaper. So him being on the ground right here, again, it would have been very important if this guy was aggressive and also a competitive player who knows all these things. So what this man could have done, he could have came in earlier, saw that Tacos landed right here, and then chunked him for an easy Stone Shaper. And whilst Tacos is probably a good enough player to get around that, it still makes his life a lot harder. So just something to keep in mind. Now what Tacos is doing here, he is playing super mega aggressive. Let me see how he plays out this fight. That Toxic Cloud is a good move. And that fire is good too. So what can Tacos do right here differently? This right here, now if he doesn't have Shadow Step, just as a side note, the Shadow Step is what makes this not a terrible play. You don't want this over your head if you're facing a Stone Shaper, because that limits your height that you can get, and the higher you can get, the better, really. That Shadow Step is what makes this okay. And he's constantly jumping, constantly putting himself in the air. It's just high enough to where you're going to dodge that shockwave, which is fine. At this point, he is at a deficit. This is just the armor getting damaged, so he really only has health left. He is more than halfway of exiling this guy, and he's a Toxicologist. He's landing his fire as well. So if SZLade wants to play this optimally, what he would do is he would S-key and then just try to bump his way back over here while constantly charging his shield up. Other than that, the fight's pretty much lost. And Tacos lands his shots. So just as a side note, while we're watching him travel, the more high ground you can get, the better. And I'm going to say this now until the end of time. Always assume that your opponent is a Stone Shaper. Get high ground until you know that it's safe to play more around the low ground. It'll just help you in general.
That's good trolls. Right.
So he sees this guy over to the right. Good, he starts high. Always important. Even little stuff like that is important.
Play Stone Shaper 50k, Keck W, dude. Because I hate Stone Shaper, that's why.
Yeah, me too, bud. So right there, this man is just...
Extremely bad with Stone.
He's a madman. He's just spamming his fire. This guy, if he had any sort of good headset, would have turned around and immediately started fighting. Oh, he actually missed that.
No rig on that.
All right, so the height's good. What he can do here, he's using his Levitate for really no good reason. What he could do differently, let me get to the point where he uses that Toxic Cloud, which is fine. And by this point, he's already damaged the guy. You can see kind of faintly that he's a Toxicologist right here. You might not be able to see that in-game, but it's important if you can just look for it. It's going to be to the left of the health and shield bar. It will give you a massive advantage to expect what's coming next. So he throws down a Toxic Cloud. The angle of the Shadow Step is... It's not the worst, but it's also not the best. What I would do is, instead of going upwards like this, go more horizontal to try to get a flank on his side. And what that does is it makes you go, like let's say you're facing straight forward. You're going to appear right here on the guy's screen if you're going up that high. Maybe even a little higher. Maybe you're like all the way up here. Instead, what you can do is you can Shadow Step to, from that position, let me see where exactly he was. Right there. Okay. So what he can do, instead of going immediately upward, this man is already falling down. He can dash straight forward and actually put himself behind the guy, which is exactly what you want to do. What that does is, instead of causing a mouse movement just straight up here, you literally have to do a 180. Look at all that distance. That is an absolutely, like, literally, it's almost like, just imagine this looping around, okay? You have to do a full 180 to be able to see Tacos at this point, which is the best thing that you can do, because what's harder to do than flicking upward? It's flicking your mouse from one part of the mouse pad to the other in an accurate fashion. So that's personally what I like to do. Missed that. Let me rewind just a little bit. All right, so from here, what does he do? Right there, He doesn't have a rune to get out of that stun. He gets hit, but he's running Harmony. Now in 2.1, it's a 2 cost. In 2.2, it's a 3 cost. So for those of you on the current patch, you're going to be probably running a Runic Fluency if you're running Toxicologist at all. What you can do is, if you don't want to get stunned, you can put down a Toxic Cloud and quickly dash out of there. You're probably still going to get stunned, but at least by that point, you're invis, and the guy can't really see where you're going. So just something to make it less of a crappy situation. All right, at this point, he's W keying this guy. It's fine because he's low on health. Again, if you get to the point where you're in a position where you have 60, 80 more health than the guy, you can pretty much W key him at that point. Unless he's a god, and you don't land your shots, then it's pretty much a guaranteed kill. Reading the chat here. Let's see. Going upwards is good against new players because they levitate to even the positions and waste mana, putting you in an advantage. For the most part, yes. Now, typically what you want to do is go for what's going to make him use the most amount of mouse movement that you can do. And it's the same for controller players because it's even more difficult. Vertical Shadow Step is okay. Getting to the other side of your opponent is better. But it's still not a bad strategy. And Tacos is good enough of a player to where it doesn't matter. It's not reliable. I can tell you now that when you use Shadow Step, you can tell where the guy is going directionally. So if you know he's above him and you're playing at... This is true, by the way. I play on a little bit of a lower res. It makes it easier to see invisible people. And honestly, at that point, if you're so far vertical as a Toxicologist that you put so much distance between you and your opponent, your outbreak damage is going to be a lot less than if you're right next to the guy behind him and you have a full slap with all of your toxic pellets. You could do either, but one's a little bit better than the other. Yeah. Honestly, it all depends on what class you're running. As a Toxicologist, you want to play the horizontal game and always have a way to get out. I personally don't run Shadow Step on any other class just because there are better options. Like example, Pyromancer, I do Flight right now just because you can engage and disengage really easily.
I'm still going to use it.
That's an example. What Tacos is doing, right there it works out for him. All right, this goes back to my point about assuming it's a Stone Shaper. See? You see? You know, that I think that proves my point. I think that actually proves my point.
I was going to say that, and I'm going to keep using it.
Let me analyze this fight right here.
And then...
All right. So, two people fighting, third-party situation. It's amazing how many third-party situations Tacos finds him in, which is exactly what you want to do, honestly. All right. This guy just burnt his rune. Tacos is now invis. Outbreak in the middle of a fight, pretty much going to get you an easy one. Right there. Now, see, that is the perfect Shadow Step. That kind of combines both of what we're saying. So ideally, what you want to do, it's exactly what this man is doing. He was previously somewhere over here, which this man is trying to compensate. He knows he went upwards somewhere, so he's trying to like spam. Maybe he's up here somewhere. But ideally what you want to do is kind of a combination of horizontal and vertical. So what he does, puts himself in a good situation to where he knows he's a Stone Shaper. He's above the ground. If he starts spamming stone, then he's not going to... If he starts spamming stone, there's no way he's hitting him basically up here. And also what he's doing is he has enough horizontal momentum to where he's going to end up behind the guy, which is exactly what you want to do. Tacos actually plays this part very well. Big Outbreak Burst. Now at this point he starts W keying. And this is what's kind of dangerous. Even at this amount of health, against a good Stone Shaper, The levitate's good. Against a good Stone Shaper, Tacos loses... Against a good Stone Shaper, Tacos probably ends up with this amount of health left. Just because of all the times he was on the ground. That's potentially what could happen. And what that does, you still win this fight right here, but you open yourself up to third parties. So he got lucky that he has this much shield left. Ideally, the levitate was good. Letting himself get hit by all those stone shots and staying on the ground is not good. So it could be better if you levitated, shot a fireball, and then shadow. His mana will reset. You could, but it's still audible. You can hear a guy recovering his mana, even while invis. So it could be good against pubs, against a competitive lobby. The guy's going to hear your mana reset. He's going to use his own rune and then get away from that situation. So you can hear that. You can hear that mana charge, which kind of ruins the whole outbreak thing. You could do it. It's just not as reliable.
I was going to be really mad if I didn't get that kill.
And you're also banking on the fire shot hitting. All right. So the way he's traversing this is okay. He's doing a good job of putting himself on ridges, which is, again, important.
I know there's gamers nearby. Where are they at, though?
Just as a side note, the way he's traversing the terrain right here is exactly what you want to do. Keep yourself as high as possible. So you can see the invis right there.
No reg that fireball. That's fog.
Good stuff. Yeah, I have no critique of that. That's probably as good as you could play it.
Ow. Ow. Toxic battles.
He's using his levitate in a way to where he always has a little bit of mana left, leaving himself open. Not leaving himself open, but he always has a way to counterattack. Even if you have 1 mana left, you can still use your full spell. For those of you that don't know. So the way he's using his levitate was actually fantastic.
Scary. It's true. It's true.
I have nothing to say about that fight. He played that very well.
Get people like players like Alpha Dog, dude. Insane player.
Keep in mind that it's 2.1 and Stone was really good. All right, so this man, he's in the middle of a fight again. Just as a side note, you see him traveling across this ground very nonchalantly. Let me go back to where you first hit him.
Yeah, offense and defense at the
This probably won't kill you 99% of the time, but for the 1% it does, you're gonna really kick yourself.
Like I'm not talking shit on Stone. I'm just bad with it. Like it's just me. Like if you look at people like players like Alpha Dog, dude.
Let's get back to that moment.
And he loves Stone Shaper.
He hears a frost right there. Notice that he breaks his shield. So he has very low health. From that, you can tell that he's in the middle of a fight. What Tacos does right here is a little bit nonchalant, and you can play this a little better. Right here, from this segment on, I counted about 4 to 5 seconds of him just running in a straight line across the ground right there. Not only does it open himself up to Stone Shapers, but that opponent, you could hear the frost snipe coming in right before he hit the fireball. So it gives a perfect lineup if the man that this dude, wherever he is, whoever he was fighting, if he wanted to, free shot on Tacos all day. So what I would do is about right here. He's already that far away. Turn around. Turn around. See if you can find some bearings. You know from this point.
Insane player, and he loves Stone Shaper.
All right, he goes so far away with the teleport, and he's too far away to really do anything with, and you know there's another guy that he's fighting. Turn around. Third person peek that tower you were just at, and see if you can spot the guy. You're not going to chase this guy down, and it's a little bit dangerous too. especially in a competitive lobby. You running across the ground like that, very bad thing. Personally, I wouldn't do the cloud just because it's a 15-second cooldown, and it's a lot of resource that you spend just to get across that valley when you could save it for an outbreak slap. That's just me. You could do that, but it's a little risky, and I prefer to not be risky. All right, perfect. One thing you can call out, you can hear the shield right here. If I turn it up louder, you could hear it. He sees this bright little object, which is holding up the shield. Drops in from below. The toxic puddle is what makes this play. So you can put down this toxic puddle, and what he does next, lights it on. Notice the 20 ticks coming out. He gets 15 at least from the barely missed fireball. 20. Do not underestimate those DF puddles. Those things are big damage. And from there, he literally has to barely hit the guy and he's dead. Good play. All right, now he's finally diverting his attention kind of that way. You know there's a guy still out there. Should be, yeah, there you go. Keeping his head on a swivel. Always a good thing. If you notice the player count, there's only 2 left. Him and 2 opponents. He's using the sorcery float.
Said his KD
a little bit of
stone is 16.
Little bit of a advanced technique. You don't have to do it, but I mean, it is cool to conserve mana. Sees this guy out here. What he does right there is not something I personally would do. Talkohsss is just the master of W keying. All right, so let me get to this point right here. Right there. So he's gonna do a fire shot. What I would do is, instead of going off the tower into the grass right here, hug the wall right here, because you always want to assume the guy's a Stone Shaper. This wall is going to block any sort of spell from that Stone Shaper he has, meaning he only has the 1 gauntlet to damage with. So just follow the wall right here. He has to make up the distance anyway, and you can still land your fire shots. Easy, safe play. You could DF it, but then your outbreak kind of misses on damage. And most DFs will only do 20 damage. Outbreaks can do like 70 to 80. Personally, I wouldn't do that. Easy. Easy stuff. Ended up hugging the castle wall anyway, so that's good. Now it's a 1v1 situation. What you want to do is not be right there. I think he sees his opponent wind spam right there. Oh, he must know the guy. He debagged into a 1v1, which is okay. Now what he does, goes in the valley, not good. Trying to stay as high as possible. Oh, that would have been so good if he hit the flick. All right, gets 15 Exiles. It ends up working out for him. I mean, if you're playing casual, this is fine. All right, he sees the wind spam right there. He knows. He already knows. The guy's right there. He's hiding behind the ledge because you can't see the player model. He already knows. Do this pathing instead of this pathing. Now, Talkohsss is playing casually. It's fine. You're playing casually. Do whatever you want. If you want to play competitively and get better at the game, take this pathing. This guy's already lower on the ledge. There's possibility that it could block some spells. So take this pathing. Not a big deal in this particular fight. This guy's trolling. He's teabagging. Anyway. So right there, unless you're going to use it for some sort of dash capability, Talkohsss is ignited. Shadow Step is useless. What you can do instead of Shadow Stepping, let me get back here. Instead of Shadow Stepping, gosh dang it, where's that? I'll just use this frame. Instead of Shadow Stepping in this valley, it's better if you're going to Shadow Step to go up here. always do the high ground if you can. And now his opponent, if he hits the shots, his opponent in that brief exchange, if he hits his shots, he has a considerable lead on Tacos, puts more pressure on him, and then Tacos has to run and heal. So just something to consider. He pretty much just got lucky in that exchange. Other than that, he hits his fire shot and ends up winning.
Go, dude.
So, brief overview. Use your high ground. Always assume that your opponent's a Stone Shaper. And just try to get an Exile using the least amount of resources possible so that if you have to run, you have them on you. And now I will pass the mic over to the chat. If you have any questions, go ahead and hit me with them.